This is the Ruckus and The Menace Sports Podcast.
Oh no! We suck again!
I'm getting confused. What game are you calling?
I'm calling both games.
It is caught by Kelsey! Touchdown! Kansas City!
Anthony for three. Bang!
How's it going, everybody? After a week off, we are here for episode number 90.
Bring them back to the 90s!
Nice, with that logic reference.
Yep.
And where we go with this now is that you're talking about the Ruckus and The Menace podcast, and I'm Spanish the Menace.
And I am Ruckus, always causing a ruckus.
And on this episode, we kick off the starting lineup and recapping some of the major quick takes on the sport universe these past 2 weeks. And then we go into the Eastwood segment, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We high heat kicking off the previewing of MLB season with the National League.
Yes, sir.
And then we head into our color commentary talking about the NFL Draft Combine. And then we wrap it up with our stud and dud of the week. And we're going to go right into it in the starting lineup. And there were a lot of notable ESPN analysts and commentators and such that really brought about a lot more of the influence and inspiration for myself personally getting into not only just the sport journalism side that I did back in my 20s, but now into my 30s and going into the sport podcasting biz pretty much, or hobby. And back in 2015, I had the passing of Stuart Scott, where Stuart Scott had passed away. And now this time, and more so talking the football realm, we talk about the passing of Chris Mortensen yesterday. Mort kind of brings like just a sense of just sense of what good analyst was for the NFL, and it's not just anybody who Peyton Manning, one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history, to have a trust and rapport built with Mort, to trust him with the announcement of his signing to Denver and even his retirement. So Mort wasn't just anybody. He basically was the Adam Schefter before there was an Adam Schefter, because Schefter was in the ESPN NFL analyst halls just as Mort was on the way out. So it's kind of that the person who trained Schefter has, or kind of that Obi-Wan Kenobi to Luke Skywalker kind of thing going on here. And for me, I will say, and raise a glass to Mortensen, to Mort, and I am thankful for the influence that you have, maybe not a way that I could have said it directly, but even if it's been more indirect, that I could say that you not only were an inspiration to probably myself, but even others that aspired and had the passion to enjoy the work you were doing.
Couldn't have been said any better. And for people that don't know what raise a glass means, aka pour one out for the homie.
Well, I was more so I was not necessarily a pour one. I was actually raising for the toast, but to just kind of say thank you.
Yep.
But that was just just overall thankful for being able to watch him on my TV screen with ESPN, especially as I was developing the passion for talking the NFL a lot while I was in high school and college, for that matter. Now that we are still in an NFL mode, let's kind of keep things in the NFL because there were a couple of major NFL headlines over the last few days.
New news!
I was going to wait till later for that one. But we're going to go that former Chargers head coach Brandon Staley was hired on as an assistant for the San Francisco 49ers. I personally am like, meh. Dude, I think it's just Kyle Shanahan trying to... He's blame shifting.
Dude,
he's doing a horrid job of blame shifting.
Why are they buying a stale cracker as an assistant for the 49ers? He's gone stale.
That's not racist at all!
Well, plot twist, I'm white, so it's okay.
No, but you caught exactly where I was going with that.
Yes, I know.
But beside the racial epithet aside, I am in the personal belief that I think that one was just... I mean, Kyle Shanahan fired Steve Wilkes, who was doing a great job with that defense.
Dude, so here's my thing. Why are you gonna fire Steve Wilkes when you just kind of had bad luck in the Super Bowl? I mean, their defensive coordinator that they had in Super Bowl 54 was why am I screwing up his...
Was it Robert Saleh?
Yes, Robert Saleh. And they had a stacked defense. They were kicking our ass a whole game in 54. And me as a Chiefs fan thought, well, they were the better team. And then apparently Mahomes didn't think that was good enough, and he was like, hey, screw it, we're gonna win this game and do it. And then Saleh didn't get fired. He ended up going to the Jets, like, I think season after that?
He ended up getting something like that. He ended up getting a promotion out of it.
Here's the thing. At least John Lynch isn't pulling a Jim Irsay by just going like, I ain't crazy, but I am crazy, but I'm not gonna say it out loud that I'm crazy, even though my body language says I'm crazy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, John Lynch is more like professional about it. But it's also
this is why dumb. I feel like this is another example of Kyle Shanahan blame shifting. He fired Steve Wilkes as kind of that. It was the dumbest firing because.
Are you saying that Kyle Shanahan is pretty much like Kylo Ren if Kyle Shanahan was like a Sith Lord? Of sorts?
He's just trying to pull the Shaggy defense of why he's losing Super Bowls. It wasn't me. It wasn't me.
I thought you were gonna say that because like Kyle Shanahan sounded like a little whiny baby in Super Bowl 54, so that's why I was thinking: is he like the Kylo Ren of the Star Wars universe when it comes to coaching and just going wah wah and then just like destroying everything in his path while he still hasn't done really anything for himself to help himself?
It's like basically blew a 25-point lead. It wasn't me. Lost the 10-pointer to Casey. It wasn't me. Even blew another lead now. It wasn't me.
I've got friends in low places where the whiskey drowns and the beer chases my blues away, and I feel okay. That's how you do it, Travis. That's how you do it. See, I'm like 4 beers into this podcast, and we barely started, and I can tell you right now, I could have sung that better. But who
Ruckus.
knows how many beers Travis had before he got to that podium.
I love how you just kind of went through that and completely ruined the whole Kyle Shanahan, it wasn't me.
I don't care. Kyle Shanahan burned his bridge. He's lost 2 Super Bowls now. So, screw him.
3!
Wait, really? Oh, yeah, the Rams. I forget.
No! He was the offensive coordinator of the Atlanta Falcons at the time of that Super Bowl.
Oh, that's why.
That's why I said the Blue a 25-point lead. It wasn't me.
Oh, yeah, 28-3. Lol. Dude, okay, on that note, I was talking to a friend the other day, and he was talking about how he was an Atlanta Falcons fan, and I brought up 28-3, and he's like, dude, shut up. Because I was like, dude, I made this cool 3D print of a Chiefs helmet the other day, and he's like, bro, don't even get me started on the Chiefs. And I'm like, oh, 28-3, huh? And he was like, bro. Anyways.
Yeah, but Mike Evans nets a big payday to stay with the Bucks.
$26 million a year.
Well, it's 2 years, $52 million, $35 million guaranteed.
But $26 million in total, though, if he does stay for another year.
Yeah,
like
and
26 as both a year. My bad. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think that this also they also are potentially looking at a potential open door to bring Baker Mayfield back. Even with this.
I mean, what's their cap hit in general? I mean, not cap hit. Like, what's their cap looking like? Because they didn't really have any other big names. I mean, yes, they had I think they have Chris Godwin for another year.
I think they still have Godwin. Yeah. I mean, I don't think they have like any major.
They did release Shaq Barrett, so it's probably
they released Shaq Barrett, so that should open up a little bit. But I don't think that Tampa Bay, at least to even make the playoffs in such the division as the NFC South, you don't need that much.
Let me look up the Bucks cap space.
You don't need an overabundance of riches.
Their highest paid guy right now, according to Over the Cap, is Chris Godwin.
It's probably Mike Evans now, but
right, but like Barrett was 1.2 million plus 9 million signing, so it makes sense why they kicked him to the curb. I kind of see Baker Mayfield maybe getting like a 2 or 3 year deal, but not like significant to where it's like Jalen Hurts money. Like maybe like 3 years, like 50 million.
Oh, he's gonna get a bridge quarterback's deal.
Or do you think it's gonna be like Geno Smith money, like Geno got last year?
I'm saying a bridge quarterback's deal. Like that's kind of
which is what kind of amount?
I don't know what the exact number really would be as far as the market for that.
You said bridge quarterback, correct?
Yes, bridge quarterback. As in, he's probably going to be there for about another year, maybe 2, and he's going to probably train up his successor.
Contracts.
I'd be thinking almost like a 3-year 40, maybe a 2-year 35 or a 3-year 48.
I mean, that probably sounds more realistic. I was just saying 50 because like the market the way it is nowadays, it's like
50 is probably a little more ideal, but I think if you can talk Baker down a little bit, and I'm talking like down in price tag, to kind of maybe sit at like that 3-year 48 and maybe backload it, and maybe backload it a little bit in the structure, I think you get him. Have him maybe take a little bit less up the front, but probably load in the back with maybe about 18 million of it. Probably do it as a 14, 16, probably a 14, 16, 18. And an 18 is not necessarily feeling like you're overpaying for that quarterback. That you're probably going to be saying is just kind of that transition guy anyway.
Yeah. Yep, we'll have to figure out what happens there later. But yeah,
Yep,
Mike Evans getting that big
last-
payday. But here we go with our next little bit of news in the NFL. Go ahead, Spennis.
And that Jason Kelce has officially retired from the NFL. From being a fan of a rival team, I am a Commanders fan, and to me, as far as Jason Kelce goes, there is absolutely zero reason that I think any Commanders fan should throw any hatred to him. He was full class the whole way. Pretty much, I think you respect him just simply because, yeah, he was an Eagle, and he stayed an Eagle throughout his entire career. I mean, it's the Jeter principle for me. Jeter may have been on the team I absolutely hate, but I respect him at the end of the day just simply because he did it all under the Yankee umbrella and was brought in as a Yankee from the beginning. Excuse me. And I think that the incredible journey of Jason Kelce as a center in the NFL and just becoming especially over the latter part of his career, an incredibly charismatic and relatable person. I think what he's done more so over the last couple of years and just how relatable he is has made a world of difference in just who people see of Jason Kelce, the man. It does mean that Jalen Hurts is going to need to have a new center. But I don't think that's going to stop Jason Kelce from doing a lot of things to benefit the city.
Yes, sir.
And we knew that Jason Kelce was going to have a fun retirement speech. At least some fun elements involved in it.
I don't know if fun's the right word for that. I think it's more so just like a passionate retirement speech.
Yeah, like a passionate retirement speech. But you know that Jason Kelce is going to have at least some moments where his sense of humor is going to come out.
Right.
That's where I'm saying the fun elements are. Like, the sense of humor elements with him are fun. Like, just...
So you listen to him on the New Heights is fun?
No, I'm saying, like, he's... Like, you know, the colorful commentary that he had in talking about the Philly special and...
Yeah, I know, but...
And those particular... I mean, it was a very emotional and heartfelt retirement. I mean, you do that a lot. Like, you will do that quite a bit as you develop a love for something and have that, and
not everybody
finally are
has
saying
that,
you can no longer do it. You have that. And to say that he had an I was saying more so he had an element of his the colorful moments of his personality come out in that speech. Granted that it's still an emotional retirement speech, and he was trying to do all that without crying.
Yeah. It was hard for me to listen, for sure, with the emotion, but I mean, it's a lot for someone to, like, eventually say, hey, I'm going to step down from the position that I have had for that amount of time, and have the passion that you have as a person to be sticking with that role. Like, it takes a lot, and it also takes the people around you to help you figure that out, but at the end of the day, you're the person that's in that role, and for him to, like, be able to mature and be like, hey, I should I should step down, or hey, I should retire, like, good for him. Like, he knew when to do
Still
it.
more authentic than Brett Favre.
Well, Brett Favre is not really authentic, we would say.
No, but I'm saying that the first retirement where Brett Favre was doing all the crying and boo-hooing, no. I think that was more so because Green Bay wanted him out.
Also, I think he was wrangling all them views.
I mean, he had the endorsement with Wrangler, but that's beside the that was beside the point.
Anyways,
I was saying that the Brett Favre tears were not as authentic as Jason Kelsey's, because this one we know that Jason Kelsey is actually going to retire.
Let's be honest here. Jason Kelsey's tears were mainly soaked through his glorious beard, though. Like, it was very hard to see them. But yeah, I see your point where, like, his emotions were definitely high. Jason Kelsey's were. Like, they felt genuine compared to Brett Favre. Like, Brett Favre's tears were probably as genuine as a YouTuber trying to apologize for something dumb that they did, like, a week ago. And they're trying to make, like, that apology video with the dog or something. Besides that,
yeah.
Do we want to get into college sports, or do we want to go into baseball?
We have we could do the Caitlin Clark thing, and that she has now set the Division I mark for scoring against Ohio State, passing the pistol. And if you don't know who that is, that would be Pete Maravich, as she finished with 35 in her game against Ohio State, as the Hawkeyes beat the Buckeyes 93-83. And now we go to baseball, where
finish that out.
Well, we have 2 of the Boris 4 have signed, and I'll let you take it away on that one there, Ruckus.
All right, Cody Bellinger, you know him. You love him or hate him. Cody Bellinger, former Dodger, still Cub, stays with the Cubbies. I believe it was a 2 or 3 year deal, and there's an opt-out the second year. Matt Chapman comes back to the West Coast, signing with the Giants. Grr, as a Royals fan once said. I don't know how to feel about this. It is what it is. Don't really care at the end of the day, because we'll see how he produces with the Giants versus the past couple years with the Blue Jays, where he was kind of mediocre and pissed me off as a fantasy owner.
Matt Chapman's main thing is that he's known for being a defensive third baseman.
Yeah, but he had pop in his bat, though, too, a little bit.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he has some of that. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But you're signing Matt Chapman for that Hoover vacuum cleaner of a glove. And you're basically, and you also said that Brandon Crawford's has gone away.
Wait, are you saying Hoover, like, as in, like, he's like a vacuum cleaner? So, like, was Donaldson not it for the Blue Jays?
Donaldson was a bat. Like, Donaldson hit better.
Well, that's for sure, because in the wild card, he was definitely not a Hoover against the Royals, but that's besides the point. Go ahead.
I was comparing I was using the reference of Matt Chapman's glove as a Hoover vacuum cleaner. That was
I
kind of where I was
know.
going.
I was being a douche by saying that Donaldson was not a Hoover vacuum. Thank you very much.
But the Red Sox signed C.J. Cron to kind of, I would say, cover a little bit of the DH role, maybe get a little bit of first base in to cover off days for Tristan Casas. But the bad news is I don't think this does as well for Bobby Dahlbeck, because I think that puts Dahlbeck back at AAA. But
how big was the CJ Cron contract? Like a year and
I don't think it
some
was
change?
big. I don't think it was a huge deal. I don't think it was a huge deal because CJ Cron, people are like, CJ Cron isn't even that good.
Well, he's been kind of doubted like his whole career, to be honest. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't.
And he was having some sort of renaissance back in Colorado.
Dude, like I think Cron is probably gonna retire after the season because
It
of
wouldn't.
just
It wouldn't surprise me.
Because if Hosmer's gonna by the way, we didn't talk about this yet, but for Royals fans out there, my condolences for Hosmer's career as he retired a couple weeks ago. I forgot to mention that. So yeah, I'm glad for him getting a ring with the Royals and whatnot, but he did I'm gonna pull
regress.
a Schefter, and he did regress. But hey, like he had a good career other than that. But we'll move on. Go ahead.
And now we go to speaking of the bringer of rain and Josh Donaldson.
Definitely not a Hoover vacuum.
The angriest baseball player that it seems, that Josh Donaldson has now chosen today to also announce his retirement. Most famously as, of course, the Oakland Athletic and then Toronto Blue Jay.
I think he was more popular as a Blue Jay, but I'll let you continue.
Well, the reason why I said Oakland Athletic is because I believe, if I remember this correctly, Josh Donaldson really was having a career, like really a good start there in Oakland before he ended up really coming in and shining there in he was climbing at the time in Oakland. So his age 27 season, he finished 4th in MVP voting. Was an all-star in his age 28 season in Oakland. 8th in MVP. He won his MVP in his 4th season in the majors. In his age 29 season in 2015. So yes.
Also, he was used as a selling point with the A's when it came to Billy Butler signing with the Oakland A's. Lo and behold, though, Billy Butler did not play with Josh Donaldson because Donaldson was traded after they signed a big contract with Billy Butler.
So yes, he may have started out his career in Oakland. He may have started out his career in Oakland, or actually, he may be more known as a Blue Jay. But I think the big climb for Donaldson was 2013 and 2014 as a member of the Oakland Athletics. So that's why I give him his Oakland A's recognition.
He was more like a Dyson vacuum at that point, rather than a Hoover, something proven.
Well, I think if you look at the fielding stats, he wasn't a Gold Glove. Let's just say he wasn't a Gold Glover. Wasn't a Gold Glover at third. But yes, he does have an MVP. He was a 2-time Silver Slugger. Was a minor league player of the year. So yes, he did have a little more of like being known for his hitting. But the bringer of rain definitely could bring it.
That's for sure. All right, next thing.
All right, the next major thing here is that now the Jackie Robinson statue cleats were donated to the Negro League Baseball Museum. Because I believe it looks like, I think the GoFundMe, I didn't see any updates on whether or not the GoFundMes were and such were clear to, or to have had enough money to actually re-resurrect the statue. But I think they probably have done it by now, and I think they're starting to look for another way to bring it back.
We'll see
To
how
bring
it
the
goes.
to bring the statue back, yes.
All
But
right,
now
you
we
ready?
get into the Eastwood segment of the good, the bad, and the ugly.
All right now. Okay, what was good in sports this week, Spinnis?
Well, let's just say that all three of our elements here, of the good, the bad, and the ugly, involve the sport of football. So our good this week involves college football, as the NCAA Football Rules Committee is pitching to allow technology such as coach-to-player communication through the helmet and tablets on the sideline. But they are also proposing a 2-minute warning in the second and fourth quarters to kind of make the game feel more like the NFL in more ways and kind of help prepare them in that sense. Do we find that this is good?
I feel like if you're going to, here's the thing, with high school, you know how like in high school, whenever you're with your teachers, they're like, "Oh, we're trying to prepare you for college or whatnot." Here's the deal: if you're trying to prepare a college kid for the pros or professional things, more often than not, you're trying to prepare them for the professional area or business or work environment. I remember having these kind of talks about this whenever I was in my profession. I'm sure with yours and in college, everything else.
Yeah.
So I think this is definitely good. I think this is a
I
step in the right direction. But I think there needs to be a stricter thing when it comes to, or not really a stricter thing, but more of like a thing of, hey, like, do this right and do that right, instead of trying to dictate your own narrative in a sense, which we'll talk about probably later. But go ahead.
Yeah.
Dennis.
I believe that the coach-to-player communication, yes, this is good. The helmet communication, I think that needs to be brought down into the college level. Because those stadiums are definitely huge. There's a lot of things going on. I mean, it's nice to have someone with a green dot to be able to have that there, just so you kind of speed up a little bit of college football. The tablets on the sideline. For video only purposes, this is definitely a very good thing to kind of, like, it allows you to kind of see things on the fly, like in game, where you're not seeing it as, like, you can see so much in black and white as you would color. There's only so much you can see on those pieces of paper, and plus it probably saves trees. But this is the one where I think the good kind of cuts a little bit. College football, you're still going to require 1 foot to be in bounds in order for a catch.
Right. But it helps the quarterbacks in the question too.
You have first downs. Well, you have first downs, stop the clock. But I don't see why or how you're trying to speed up the game a little bit with the coach-to-player communication through the helmet. So you're not having to constantly go to the sideline for a play.
Well, doesn't it also help with the professional element of it? Because don't they have communication with the quarterback and coach and whatnot?
Yes,
through that?
yes, that's what I'm... Yeah, I mean, I'm speaking that way. But I'm saying that the 2-minute warning is where the good stops. because it takes away from what the college game kind of does best a little bit in terms of especially the hurry up play and up tempo play late in games. You take away the 2-minute warning and you've got a team rallying back, or you add a 2-minute warning and you're taking a team that's kind of rallying back. No, that's the part of college football where the tempo has to kick in. Let the first down stop the clock and the tempo and keep the game rolling. Keep the game rolling. You don't need a 2-minute warning. The 2-minute warning should be saved for the NFL. Like, save the 2-minute warning for the NFL. Because tempo in college football, because the clock stops on a first down, stops on first downs anyway. Unless you remove the first down stops the clock, the 2-minute warning really shouldn't exist in college football.
Yeah, the college football in general is more of a wild card anyway, so I see why you would say that the 2-minute warning needs to not be there, because
yes,
let's be honest here, college football is more like, to me, in my opinion, it's kind of like trying out for a role that you kind of want to do, but you're not sure that you want to do. Kind of like a marching band in a sense, where it's like you're in high school marching band, you're like, okay, this is fun, like I could do this, but then when you realize there's competition to it, you're like, oh, well, shit, like I thought this was fun, but now I had to be more serious about it, and I'm not sure whether or not I want to commit to this, you know. Where that's how I see it, at least. But
you know how. But the other good thing is that for the EA Sports college football game, over 10,000 players opted into this thing for $600 and a free copy of the game for the new EA Sports college football. So I'm wondering, how is EA going to be able to, if the 2-minute warning kind of applies to college football at that point, are they going to be able to make those changes quickly, or kind of bring something from the Madden engine and keep it there, or is it going to be kind of something that's not there this year and would have to be in next year's game? Would EA be able to figure out a way to do it fast enough to kind of make it as authentic and true to life as possible?
I mean
it took MLB The Show a year to get the bases. This year, the bases are going to be the now MLB size. The pizza boxes.
Yep, and also EA was fast enough to take some employees down from a project for recently from the Star Wars franchise, but that's here nor there.
Yeah, that was beside the point.
I was just disappointed in EA. That's why I brought that up. All right.
Yeah. But the not so good in sports this week involves your Kansas City Chiefs.
Yep, and the bad is McColl, because apparently he was being accused of leaking game plans by former New York Jets teammates, also telling Chiefs to come get him, was unsettling for the Jets. And to that I say, that's hearsay, Your Honor, and I feel like it's not really tampering, it's more just like a commentative thing. Like, I don't think he leaked game stuff. Why would a wide receiver leak game stuff, to be honest? Like, what does he have to gain over other teams, especially when this was probably after the Aaron Rodgers injury? Like, why would he gain anything? Like, that's dumb.
Okay.
Go for it.
When was Hardman traded from the Chiefs, or from the Jets to the Chiefs?
Like week 6, like during the trade deadline, like the week before, I think.
That is after the fact. That is after the fact of the Jets playing the Chiefs, but the Jets But they were talking some but the leaked footage that they were speaking on was probably more so the Jets playing the Eagles during the regular season, which was way back when, and the Chiefs played them later, which is, I think, the game in question. But the interesting part of this is that you kind of have these if these tampering allegations are considered to be true, this hurts the Chiefs. Because I think they could lose a draft pick. They could lose some sort of draft pick out of it. But I do not believe it's going to have as much merit. But I think it is something that needs to be really taken with an extreme sense of caution. Because if things like that happen, and I just don't need this setting a bad precedent that potentially the NFL would have to step in, accuse someone of tampering at that point, and start ripping picks away from people. So it's a precedent that we really don't want to have set.
Sure. I mean, for sure. Like, if it was any other team like that too, for sure, like, besides the team that I'm rooting for.
Yeah, I mean, even though it's the Chiefs, it's just like I know that this kind of happened to you, but it's like, how would you feel if it was somebody talking about if Kadarius Toney did it?
I would have been kind of like, well, shit, because Kadarius Toney, he's kind of a loudmouth in general. McColl's more mature about things.
Well, I was just saying, like, kind of have the shoe on the other foot with another disgraced or disgruntled player in the Kansas City Chiefs system.
Was his foot over the line, though?
No, but I think Kadarius Toney could have very well crossed that line, not just in a line of scrimmage sense, but a line that may have been more out of pocket.
I remember facing that scrutiny whenever I was wearing a Chiefs Chiefs jacket when I was in Pennsylvania early in December, like the week after that we lost because of the offsides penalty. Someone at a supermarket was like, "Hey, nice they're like, nice jacket. By the way, look, you're offsides." And I was like, God damn it.
Yeah. But I was talking more of that going over the line, like crossing the line, as that it's almost like that shoe's on the other foot, and it was a player from the Chiefs having this same type of thing. Like kind of putting the shoe on the other foot.
Yeah.
But now to the downright ugly this week. And it is the failed experiment and contract situation. That is Russell Wilson.
Also, can I do a final farewell and also appease the gods of Saul really quick? So, by the way, for those who don't know, Russell Wilson just got released by the Broncos, like Spence said. But it's the highest cap hit in NFL history. So, without further ado, Broncos country, let's die. You're welcome, Saul. Love you.
I was more so thinking like Broncos country, let's hide, because that was...
Why would they hide now? They kicked his ass out. They don't need to hide if they kicked Chupacabra out.
I'm saying let's hide because of the amount of the cap hit being involved is just straight up embarrassing.
Oh, please. Dude. if the Chiefs have a... Dude, it's kind of like the thing of the Chiefs though, where like their cap space is like kind of limited and they had to go cheap on the quarterback. But for the Chiefs, it's like the exact opposite, but also at the same time, like they have limited cap space because they're trying to keep key pieces of their defense, but also bring some weapons for Mahomes. Like, it's a very thin line. Would you rather be broke AF because Russell Wilson drained all the money from the Walmart bank account from the Broncos because the Broncos were like, hey man, like, even though you haven't played a snap for us at all, it'd be awesome for you to sign an extension with us even though you literally haven't played a snap of ball? And then they're like, oh shit, as soon as they
Yeah, that is why I'm saying Broncos country, let's hide. Because
Broncos
you want to
country?
hide because of being in the embarrassment. You want to hide from being in the light of the embarrassment that just happened.
I would have just died.
Yeah, that too, but I would have said, but I also said hide.
Just kill me now. Forever hold your peace.
Like, it was just a terrible embarrassment because one of the key pieces that Denver gave up in that trade was the pick that resulted in Pro Bowl rookie cornerback for the Seattle Seahawks, Devin Witherspoon. If Devin Witherspoon continues at this rate, becomes a multi-time Pro Bowler, an All-Pro, I mean, ultimately, I really feel like Seattle won the deal. Just simply because the Denver Broncos front office didn't know what they were doing. They went to the casino, took all that money, bet it all on black, and missed it.
Was John Elway still the GM at the time whenever Russell Wilson...
I do not believe so.
Man, not... Dude, you know what's bad when the Broncos don't even have John Elway and they screw up such a big pick? Because, like, I think wasn't the last guy that Elway brought in, like, wasn't that,
Elway was still a consultant. Elway was probably a consultant at the time of the deal.
Dude,
but I think it was after he had gotten away from being the president of football operations.
He's like, you know what? I'm gonna screw up this franchise even more. I'm gonna smile a little bit more and bring Russell Wilson in, and then I'm gonna smile a little bit more when he gets released, and then I ruin the rest of the Broncos organization. But hey, I'm here, showing the Lombardi Trophy over to the Chiefs. And that's where I shut up because that's the last of what I'm going to say about my division.
Yeah. But
anyways.
Yep. So now we go into the high heat where we are bringing in the talk about the National League. Oh, and we also forgot about Zach Wheeler re-signing with the Phillies.
Who cares?
Oh, I think I think this could be something that is very well intriguing, but beside the point. However, as far as the National League, teams we definitely have an excitement for and seeing what they can do.
Okay, I'm going to pick two. I'm going to say the Phillies and the Diamondbacks.
I think for me,
the Diamondbacks are kind of filling in a hole that they had to fill.
I'm going to say for me, I see the Reds as a potential team of excitement in the NL. Just look at the youth on this roster. You have an Alexis Diaz, Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo. Frankie Montas at 30 is still rather young for his spot. Lucas Sims, pitching-wise. Then you have, of course, Tyler Stevenson under the age of 30 at this point. Ellie De La Cruz. Jonathan India, Noelvi Marte, Spencer Steer. And then in the outfield you have Jake Fraley and maybe TJ Friedel is a possibility as well. So I mean, you have multiple players that I think can blend well together for the Reds. And they were last season, pretty much last season, they were an 82 and 80 team. So they were kind of above 500, still kind of hanging around. They did a little bit of calling up in the offseason. I think they're a team that could very well have some improvement and a little bit of excitement. The second one I potentially do have as a team of intrigue may very well be, again, the Arizona Diamondbacks. Simply because they are in a pick up where they left off type of way. Teams where the excitement has kind of deflated.
For me, it's the Pirates and Brewers, because the Brewers definitely just did that by trading away Corbin Burns, but also it seems like they're more rebuilding. The Pirates are just in general not very exciting as a whole, but I just decided to do that because, why not? Because they've always been kind of cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs in a bad way.
For me, the only reason why I would have the Rockies here is because they are the worst team in that league. But they do have Brenton Doyle for me as far as a Shepherd alum, so I kind of have a little bit of excitement for them. However, I think the team that I think is going to have a lot more deflatement to it and kind of just that deflated energy, I have the Mets. Because the Mets are never, like, if you want to talk about, oh, we're so stoked for this, just to have your hopes come crashing down like as if you were Goose's plane in Top Gun. Sorry I had to go there, but but just kind of all that excitement just to end up feeling like you're in the highway to the danger zone, and you just don't make it. Welcome to the world of being a fan of the New York Mets.
Been through the danger zone. Dun, 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 dun. Go ahead.
Okay, so teams that you feel may be surprising people this.
The reason why I say it's surprise for the Cardinals and Giants. The Cardinals, they're still trying to play the old card, but at the same time, they have talent still. They just signed Brandon Crawford to a deal. I don't know how this is going to fare for them in the end, but we'll see. I've seen the Giants do this before as a surprise, where they'll play like complete ass one year, and then the next year they'll get like 110 wins and do amazing, but then lose in the divisional. So it's like, yeah, like, we'll see. But I feel like the Cardinals could be a surprise too, because they added a little bit more talent, and they could still add more depending on how free agency works near the tail end. But yeah, what is your Menace for surprise?
My two potential surprises, I have the Pittsburgh Pirates. I think that this could be a year where Brian Hayes could eventually start to really find his stride there in Pittsburgh and continue to play well.
Yep.
Continue to play well. And that for me might be very well something that is exciting. And I think that it's something that very well could have, like, you very well could have something come together for them. For the Pirates, just slowly, like, you want something to just kind of develop with them, especially because they are young. Like, they still look like they're rather young. They do have O'Neal Cruz. You have O'Neal Cruz at short and keep Brian Hayes at third. Rowdy Tellez is now the first baseman.
We also forget to mention that the Pittsburgh Pirates were first in their division and doing really well at the beginning of the season last year, and then fell off. But they still have promise.
But I mean, they're a team that I think, if they have a bit of good pitching to kind of hold themselves up, they could very well be just fine. They were only 76 and 86 last year. So you could see, I think you're seeing the improvement in the Pirates. Now it's just a matter of being able to win the right games in order to do it. Teams that we feel are going to take a huge step back, and I think both you and I are going to agree on one of them.
Yep, I put both the Mets and Padres. The Mets because they spent way too much money on
players that didn't pan out. Well, on players that didn't pan out throughout the last couple of stretches and let a whole bunch of players walk.
Yep, and then the Padres because mainly they just traded Juan Soto to the Yankees, but also they splurged a lot in both free agency and through the trade deadline last year and years prior, and now have not much to show for themselves. They even traded Eric Hosmer, which was their main first piece to try to bring a championship to San Diego, which still hasn't happened, but I digress.
But, I mean, you have a bunch of adjustments going on in the infield. You have that Xander Bogaerts now has to kind of adjust himself to learn second base. You've had Manny Machado, who has 0 World Series ring wins, and yet he's had really only one chance to get there. Manny Machado may not be a World Series winning player. I mean, you got Cronenworth, you got Ha-Seong Kim. I mean, the Padres have talent. I just don't know how well that talent is going to stay healthy and come together. Especially because you have kind of players. And they also lost Josh Hader. They also lost pretty much one of their main closers. So really, it's going to be a lot of bullpen. I think it's going to be a lot of bullpen issues for the Padres.
I think in general, their bullpen was an issue before Hader, anyways. But yeah, I see your point.
But I think you lose a degree of talent. You lose a degree of talent in that system, in that bullpen, to kind of say, hey, hello, we're kind of trying to see where you're at here. Yeah. Also, I think a team that may also look at a step back terms of a lack of runs scored might be the Miami Marlins. Even though they just picked up Tim Anderson, they still have Luis Rise who can hit, Josh Bell at first. And they have a good amount of stuff to kind of keep themselves there. I think I also have them as a little bit of a surprise team, just simply because I think their pitching looks like it's rather underrated. And their rotation, most of them are all under 30. So this makes for a very interesting set of season for the MLB. And who are two players that we really have an interest in looking at what they're going to do?
Well, I had the Washington Nationals C.J. Abrams, a outfielder slash infielder, that did really well and caught people by surprise last season, and then a man that was caught by surprise midway through the season near the end as a pick to give the Reds a early wild card postseason berth in Ellie De La Cruz, the shortstop for the Cincinnati Reds.
Well, I am looking at the other spot in that infield for that, or at least a potential person for another spot if they move, even if they move Ellie De La Cruz to third, is Noelvi Marte. And then for the Marlins, I have Edward Cabrera as a potential interest piece as well. And the question here now becomes, where do we want to begin? With the East, the Central, or the West when it comes to our predictions for the standings?
Let's just pick one, Menace.
Let's start with the NL East. And in 5th place, I am probably going to personally say this, and I think you may be in agreement here. The Washington Nationals.
Yep.
I believe that the Washington Nationals just do not have enough in the tank.
I think the Mets go third.
I might have to disagree with you.
I think the Marlins go fourth, though.
I think the Marlins are third. I think if the Marlins pitch extremely well,
but if they don't, though.
I mean, if they don't, I still think the Marlins have enough hitting to kind of counteract that, especially with Tim Anderson coming into that lineup.
But Tim Anderson had a crappy year last year and didn't really do anything.
Yeah, but you never know what a change of scenery of leaving Chicago and getting to the warm weather of Miami can do. You never know.
It doesn't matter.
Especially,
I think he's regressed, but anyways.
Wait, so you're gonna say that we're gonna say the Marlins in fourth?
Yep.
I think if they end up in third, it wouldn't be a shock. And I'm going to take the Phillies in second and the Braves in first.
Fair enough.
I believe the Braves will be your NL East champions once again. And we are now to the NL Central. In 5th place.
I think the 5th place is going to be the Pirates.
Yeah, because I think the Cardinals could be in a better sense of a net improvement. I can agree here that the Cardinals will be in third, the Reds in second, and I think your NL Central champion is going to be the Cubs again. I think it could be if the Reds do win it, I would not be the slightest bit surprised. But I think because the Cubs still have Dansby, they still have Nico. They now have Bellinger. You do have PCA. Seiya Suzuki could very well be something. Nick Madrigal at third. I think they have enough pieces to... And even Jan Gomes at 36 is still going to be a good mentor as well.
Yeah.
So I could look at this and say I think the Cubs could very well win that division again, even without Marcus Stroman.
Yep. All right.
Especially because they also added Hector Neris to their bullpen.
Which doesn't mean a whole lot, but yeah.
It doesn't mean a ton. It doesn't mean a ton. But I think it means just enough. It means just enough that I think it's worth something.
All right, and then the NL West, which I kind of ranked myself. I think.
Yeah, I am in agreement with the Rockies being in fifth. I think on paper the Padres are better.
I think the
But
Giants are probably going to be third, though, just due to the fact that they seem to be better in general. Diamondbacks, I think, are going to be in second because the Dodgers, out of all these,
the
gonna
Dodgers
kill everybody.
are basically New York Yankees West. So that they spent so much money on a bunch of great players, keeping Shohei Ohtani in LA and bringing in Yoshinobu Yamamoto and Tyler Glasnow, along with keeping Clayton Kershaw. Of course, they were going to spend a lot of money.
Yeah.
The only thing I see questionable could be if the Padres have some great games in there. I believe that the Padres lack an outfield. That is, lack outfielders. Or at least players that are primarily designated as outfielders, is where I'm at.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that we've gone from talking about the preview of the MLB season for the National League, we get into the color commentary talking about the NFL Draft Combine this past weekend. Who are some prospects that we feel really, really good about?
Well, I think a few of them. So for me, I really like Anthony Gold of the Beavers from Oregon State. I think he's a good pick. I really liked JJ McCarthy as well. I mainly just looked at the highlights. I didn't really pay attention too much of like the individual players, but I just looked at the highlights to see like the cool tricks they did and whatnot. What do you think are some good prospects?
Yeah, I am in a personal belief that I think that Rome Odunze, the receiver for Washington, he was not wanting to leave the combine until he was under like this certain time on the 3-cone drill. He was wanting to really push himself in that realm. And I think that outside, like, the discipline that he has to be able to want to work hard to get better at his craft is what I think could separate himself and turn into a really, really good top 10 pick for a team, and could possibly be in the top 5, or at least be guarantee himself at the third best wide receiver spot if Neighbors and Marvin Harrison Jr. are already off the board. That he very well is wide receiver number 3, but he may be working harder than them to eventually be really the ultimate wide receiver out of this draft class. The second one I look at is J.J. McCarthy. When Xavier Worthy ran his 4.21, McCarthy was out there celebrating afterward with him. I think that this and a lot of things also show kind of the person that J.J. McCarthy could be as a teammate. And being able to... That this, I think... This shows a little more of of kind of who he is. He wants to see his teammates win. Or kind of just different people win. I think J.J. McCarthy, for his team and seeing that type of success, I think this could be at least give himself an incredibly good look. There were a couple of other running backs that potentially had some rise. Edge rushers kind of really stuck out as something. Joe Alt is huge and showed that he had more mobility with it. So really a lot of the cream that especially did work out rose to the top. And it showed. And there are diamonds in the rough in this class. The perceived top few picks did not take part in major elements of the combine. They didn't really work out. Daniels didn't choose to get measured. Harrison was refusing to interview. There were a lot of different things that kind of were a little bit unsettling for certain analysts. Is this a trend of the future? Or is it something beyond the players that is forcing this to happen? And do you feel that any or even all of this could affect their draft stock?
I think it definitely affects their draft stock, because what the hell are you hiding from potential teams that would make it to where you would have a disadvantage?
It's withholding information. It's withholding information. We know your resume. But this is withholding information from the entire league. It's like these teams are not necessarily going to freely exchange this information if you get it and they don't.
Like,
it is basically.
I don't get it.
It's funneling I understand funneling your information that you have going to the teams that are kind of where you think you're going to go. But what if you don't?
Also, it feels like you're trying, like, as someone going into the NFL and you're trying to get a role with a team, and that could concur money. Why are you withholding information that could help a team decide whether or not
to even take you?
Yeah, because like it could mean whether or not, because like for all we know, Caleb Williams could probably go in the second round because of the shit that he's pulling right now with the I'm not gonna talk or do anything. It's like, dude, you're freaking mediocre at best. It showed when you were at USC. Like, either don't play football or just like freaking show people what you've got instead of just being like, oh, well, I don't really have to. It's just like, freaking quit playing a game of chicken.
This is supposed to be.
It pisses me off seeing that not only do people go through a transfer portal to be like, oh, I'm going to go to another team that actually matters because I value myself, but then also you're like, well, I kind of suck ass, but I'm going to try to value myself in the NFL draft by not actually doing anything in the combine. It's like, pick a goddamn lane.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to bet on themselves. It's like they're listening to people who may not have their best interest at heart.
It's not even that. It's literally just like they're being too cocky and pretty much being like, oh, I think I'm the greatest. But really, when people look at your freaking tape and everything, they're gonna realize what you really are rather than what you think you are. Because what you think you are does not dictate what people are going to pay you for.
They're going to be dissecting your tape in their war rooms.
I don't give a shit if you're
are dissecting. They are dissecting your tape in a war room. They are dissecting every bit of what you say in an interview. This NFL Combine was designed to be a job interview for these players, or at least some sort of audition for these players, to have all 32 teams be able to have the same playing field of information. You
Also,
are giving
a
no
su-
team an advantage. You're giving no team an advantage by doing everything you are supposed to in the combine.
Also, a
This
Super Bowl
is
team,
fair play.
a Super Bowl GM is not going to give a shit about what you did then. They want you to prove to them what you could do now. There's a reason why Chris Jones didn't get the contract he asked for. There's a reason why Ladarius Sneed is getting the franchise tag right now, because they want to try to see what value they can get out of him so that they can go to the next guy and be like, alright, we're gonna bet on this guy. We're gonna bet on black or red or whatever. It's all luck, but at the end of the day, we don't give a shit about what you are now.
So if you're being picky and choosy, or actually I should say this, if you're being more pickier or choosier than a mom that's choosing Jif about who is receiving your medicals, who's receiving this interview time, who is kind of doing this and doing that, and you're kind of keeping some of these other teams out of certain information, and then a team that does not have any of this information is going to trade for you about 2 to 3 years later. They're going off of literally nothing. You're leaving teams in the dark. If you're anything at the combine, just don't attend the combine.
Dude, it's almost like you're like trying to fake a drug test at this point. Like you're taking like a like like you're like, oh, I didn't smoke weed before doing this. No, not at all. And they're like, okay, you're in. Like, no. It's like, come on. All right. What positions do we feel are great in this draft class, and where do we feel the class potentially may be lacking?
I feel like I think we are seeing a rise in a number of quality wide receivers in this class.
Yes.
The quarterback class has always been heavy. It's always been an abundance of riches.
I think it's been heavier in the past couple of years, but yes, go on.
Yeah, but I'm saying that this year's class is for a quarterback, for quarterbacks, an abundance of riches.
Yep.
Wide receivers this year, I think we have a good top line and also a pretty solid middle line as well.
I think it's stronger than the tight ends of last year, because last year the tight ends were a lot stronger than now they are. Because
tight end. I think tight end is a little down this year. But also we do not have a single prospect from Iowa. I don't think we have a single tight end prospect from Iowa. So that quality of tight end is of course going to go down.
Yep.
But I think we're seeing a lot of good quality offensive tackles this draft. I think offensive line could be a spot. Is it as beefy as it is in years past? No. But I do believe that we do have quality offensive linemen. We have quality edge rushers. We have quality defensive linemen and linebackers. There's plenty of corners. There's a good bit of riches in there for most of the teams that need something, minus at running back. I think running back is the only one that I feel like we don't have a lot. I do not believe we also have a ton of great safeties in this draft.
Do you think that Blake Corum could be the next Clyde Edwards-Helaire as far as going into the draft? Do you think he's going to get drafted in the first round and then become kind of the same path that Clyde Edwards-Helaire picked? Because part of me feels like he's like the same clone in a sense. Like I
do not believe that there will be a running back taken day one. There will be no running backs taken day one. I don't think the first running back is going to come off the board until day 2. Because I feel like the reason why I do not believe a running back is going to come off day 1, if you need a running back and you want some quality in that running back, just get into the free agent market. Just get into the free agent market because there's a plenty. There's a plenty that you want to be able to try and find, and you might be able to negotiate something and make it make sense.
Yeah.
I think that free agency is going to really... I think that free agency does affect the running backs a little more.
Speaking
especially
of which,
because I think the abundance of quality talent for running backs is down.
I would kind of disagree, but here we go. How will
No,
free
but I'm
agency...
saying the quality
Go
of
ahead.
running backs in the draft class.
Yeah.
Because I think you have about 3 or 4 there that potentially could be right there at the top, and then the rest of it just falls off.
Well, I'm just saying I disagree because of the free agency rather than the draft class.
Oh, there's quality. No, I'm saying that even in free agency, there's quality there.
Yeah. All right. Do we want to go into the next question here?
Yeah. Well, how will free agency over the next 2 weeks affect potential draft pick moves? I mean, I was bridging a little bit with the running back position. I think that Atlanta may be at a little bit of a crossroads at quarterback, especially if they look at potentially Kirk Cousins. Do they look for a way to get rid of a Desmond Ridder, or do they want Kirk to mentor Desmond Ridder? This is kind of that little bit of a crossroads there. The Giants at 6 is a very interesting proposition because I think they have had it with Daniel Jones.
I feel like if they had it with Daniel Jones, they wouldn't have signed him to an extension like they did. I think they probably would have gotten rid of him.
No, but Danny Dimes has not lived up to any bit of that extension. He's been more like Danny Pennies.
He's
been more like Danny Pennies.
Dude, the pennies already all went to the wishing well that didn't come true, before he got the extension. They should have used that extension money on Saquon, which they didn't do. They ended up franchise tagging him.
Yeah, so I think that... Yeah, so I'm in that sense that I think the Giants will look and have a potential of finding a quarterback that potentially could make sense for them. I think Dable will find the real quarterback that he wants. I believe that this quarterback may show the true colors of what Dable may want. I think that is what's going on here. And the last major question here is the 40-yard dash a true way that you can evaluate a player for his speed? Is it really the tried and true way that people think it is?
I mean, in theory, no, because I think because when they were like, "Oh, John Ross got the record for the fastest 40-yard as a wide receiver," but we all know what the fuck happened to him. Sorry, pardon my French. We know what the heck happened to him. After that whole draft, his career kind of went down a downward spiral. And even if it wasn't him, who knows what Tyreek Hill would have been in the 40-yard dash. I'm pretty sure he was an undrafted free agent, wasn't he?
You said which player?
Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek Hill, I think Tyreek Hill might have gone down. I'm trying to remember if Tyreek Hill even got drafted.
Because I don't think he did.
Tyreek Hill. Looking to see if NFL.com gives us a draft. Yeah, it does not look like he had. Not look like he had any bit of a draft. No, it was a 5th round pick.
By the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. 2016
Anyways,
draft in the 5th round. Yep.
I don't think the 40-yard dash is a true way of evaluating a player, because even then, like, you have offensive linemen, you have defensive linemen, you have different people with different sizes of body types and whatnot. I don't think it really evaluates that. I think what really evaluates it is just how fast they go down through, like, corners and how they can read routes and stuff like that. Like, if you're a defensive man and you really want to gauge how fast someone can break down through, like, a zone or whatnot to, like, get to the quarterback or whatever, for sure, like, do different drills. But I don't think a 40-yard dash really does anything. I think really it just is, like, more just to see how longevity-wise they go. But even then, it's just kind of dumb. It's just like, okay, you can dash 40 yards. Good for you. Because even some players even opt out of that on the combine.
Okay. Here's the first question I have for you. How fast do you think Jerry Rice, the greatest wide receiver, known as the greatest wide receiver of all time, how fast do you think his 40 time was?
4.3?
What'd you say, a 4.3?
Yeah.
He was a 4.7. He was a 4.71. Antonio Brown, 4.56. Terrell Suggs was 4.84. Joe Hayden had a 4.57. Larry Fitzgerald and Anquan Bolden, the 2 wide receivers for Arizona for a good stretch of time. And of course, Larry Fitzgerald was arguably the best in his era. He only had a 4.63. Cam Chancellor was under 4.7. Phillip Rivers was 5 seconds. So yes, and even Devontae Adams was at a 4.5. And Joey Bosa was a 4.86. So yes, there are people who are known for playing, like, game speed, I think is truly what you want to look at. There are people who play faster than what their track speed is. It doesn't matter of a 40-yard dash, because you could have a slower 40 time and still be super elite in the NFL. Because here's the difference. 40 times, you may have a slow 40 time, but yet your route running is so crisp that you can get DBs to bite on every single fake. On every single fake to be able to get you open. You have route running moves. You have physical ways to get yourself open. You can jump. Like, you have vertical ability. You have hands to be able to make tough catches in traffic. So wide receivers have so many different traits that you want to look for, that just because you don't have a 4.3, 4.4, or 4.3 40 doesn't mean that you're not a productive wide receiver. It means you're just not a burner. It just means that you're not gonna burn DBs like they're toast. That's just all that means. And on that note, in talking about some of our great things of the draft and some of our not so great things of it, we now go into our stud and dud of the week. Go for it, Ruckus.
Yep, my stud of the week is going to be Brett Veach, because not only was this very smart as a general manager kind of thing, but for sure, just in general, who wouldn't do this? Brett Veach franchise tagged L'Jarius Sneed, but also gave him the go-ahead for a possible trade, which means that in this case, if Brett Veach and the Chiefs don't give a long-term deal to Sneed, he can either play on the tag or get traded to a team that is willing to give up draft capital / just value to what trade that Sneed would give for the Chiefs to whatever suitor wants Sneed. And then my dud, I have Richard Sherman, the former defensive back for the Seattle Seahawks, 49ers, and above, was arrested.
1/4 of the Legion of Boom as well.
Yep, was arrested on a suspicion of a DUI, as he was pulled over after driving really fast, and when he was pulled over, he was asked if he had anything to drink, and Sherman said he had 2 margaritas. So the officers were like, "All right, let's take him in," and they did, and he was arrested. All right, Spennis, here you go.
Were they also wanting to try him with a sorry receiver like Crabtree?
Was he driving D5 over the speed limit?
That. But my stud this week goes to Inter Miami striker Luis Suarez. In the early stages of reuniting with his former FC Barcelona teammate Lionel Messi, he had a day against Orlando the other day, having 2 goals and helped assist on 2 more, as Inter Miami won 5-0 over Orlando Soccer Club. I was going to do the honorable mention of the Nick Castellanos thing, but that just kind of wasn't quite as good. But my dud goes to, yes, the Jacksonville Jaguars. I was going to do Cam Newton, but I think this Jacksonville Jaguars one that I saw today was definitely a lot dumber. The Jacksonville Jaguars wish defensive tackle Lorenzo Fatukasi a happy birthday on a social media post from their social media team. On the same day, they cut him. Here's your birthday present. Your pink slip. You've been cut. So, granted that the Jacksonville Jaguars maybe had saved about a couple million on the space, but it's kind of a little bit of a low blow. Especially because the social media team for the Jaguars had made the tweet and had no idea that the organization was even going to cut him. So, a little bit of a blindside birthday present that kind of is a little bit of a punch to the you-know-whats.
Yep.
Yep. Go ahead and take us out.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to the Ruckus and The Menace Sports Podcast. I am Ruckus, always causing a ruckus.
And I'm Ruckus and The Menace.
Thank you for listening to our sports podcast and tuning in every week. This is a Ruckus and The Menace Sports production. Thank you for listening. Leave a like on our videos. Comment if you enjoy them and or have questions. We'll see you later.
Deuces.